I'm down in the greenhouse today. I don't have a lot of room where I am. It's a very small greenhouse. This is the door behind me, and this is the front wall. I can touch both at the same time. I can't quite go to lengthwise for walls, but we all know the greenhouse I have here is pretty small. But today I need to do some transplanting, and this is where I need to be to do it. And these are some weeds that need to go, mostly weeds, I think. The wind is pretty strong today. I think this is all weeds. It's supposed to be eggplants. I got a couple of things in here that look consistent that might be eggplant. The rest of that is weeds. I planted this stuff in the shed quite a while ago, and I had a heat light, or not a heat light, I had a grow light on them, and I thought that would be good enough as it was. It wasn't. Things didn't exactly turn out as well as I'd hoped. So, as to be expected, my results were subpar. So today I'm transplanting up some of the stuff like these guys that did turn out better and are now ready for a bigger pot. So I have some supplies around me, hopefully in a good strategic location so that I can reach them all and not have to get my own way here. So I'm going to set up some of my stuff here. I got a tote container under the camera view here on the ground that I could lay some stuff in. I recently went to Dollarama to pick up some more pots. I was looking for these guys. They're little 1.5, I think it is. 1.5 by 1.5 by like 3 inches deep or something. It says they're 3 by 3 by 3.1, but so did these. So obviously there's a good amount of size difference between the two. It's even worse when I drop them on the ground. But obviously they can't both be 3 by 3 by 3.1. So that's not true somehow. So something is mislabeled. But I'm actually going to use some of these smaller ones first. This might be an unfounded belief. Actually, no, I think I will go with the larger ones first. Might be an unfounded belief, but I believe that if you transplant up tomatoes and peppers from one size pot and skip several sizes and go to a much larger size pot, that you're doing them a disservice, that the plant will go into a bit of a shock and won't be able to handle, I shouldn't say won't be able to handle, but it'll take them longer to adjust and grow out to that large size of a pot. So what I'm transplanting today is chocolate cherry vine tomatoes. These are very root bound, as you can see. And I also have several plants per, and a few weeds, several plants per cell. So what I'm going to do is kind of squat them a little bit, very gently. I've left these without water since yesterday. Being in the greenhouse dries them out that much more. That one's fine on its own, so I don't need to crush the soil out of the roots. So when I'm separating the plants, it's well, that one come out a little too easy. When I'm separating the plants, it's easier if all the roots are not gripping each other quite so good. So I give them a little squeeze, and it makes it a bit easier to gently pull the roots apart. all of that dirt is getting collected into my extra tub there. So I got my chocolate cherry vine tomato. There's still 2 in this one. I think I'm going to leave the smaller one there as is and let it go. Now, in here in the yellow bucket is just a mix, a cheap dollar store mix of potting soil. So I'm going to push that one forward a bit, make sure I can get all around. Make sure to pull off any low-hanging leaves. Now you notice that I planted that pretty deep. My understanding, limited though it may be, is that all the stem of the plant, where all those little hairs are sticking out, will become roots if given a chance. So I'm going to try to give them that chance. I'm going to pluck off these lower hanging leaves because that's not going to do us any good. I'm going to leave these leaves and everything else, and I'm going to plant it fairly deep, trying to see how much will come out of this. I'm going to try to keep the plant in the center of the pot because that'll make it easier for watering issues. Be nice to have some way to get water into the container. I wonder if it actually would work out better that way if it was off to one side, be able to water the plant easier. And that's about it. The soil is up to 1/2 inch or so of the bottom leaves. I'm ready to go. And I just keep doing this with all of my plants until I have all of these chocolate cherry tomatoes done, and then I can move on to some of the peppers. So I finished transplanting all the chocolate cherry vine tomatoes, CCV. The wind has not gotten any better, not really gotten any worse either, so time to move on to the Romas. I already have a tray set up for some of these, so I just need to provide a little separation because I had beefsteak tomatoes as well. I really should have brought down my permanent marker in hopes of actually labeling some of these. That'd be different for me too. Something else I don't usually worry too much about. Truth is, I figure most of this stuff is tomato. If it actually gets to the point of bearing fruit, I'd be lucky. Also kind of amazed, but lucky at least. Right. Another thing I bought recently was grow bags. I actually got these at Dollarama. $3 a bag. No, I'm going to test them out. I got 4 or 5 here, so when some of these tomatoes get bigger, maybe I'll try a few tomatoes in there. It says it's ideal for balconies or small gardens. Handles make easy transport. It makes transport easy. So 2.8 gallons or 10 liters, 10.6 liters. I don't know. We'll see if those actually work out. But I need to pull out some of these tomatoes. Some of them are looking kind of weak, so I'm just going to kill off a couple of those. That guy's a good one. Hopefully that's a good Roma tomato. Let's see. This is one of the smaller plugs. This guy is already has very little to him. Very little to that, so he's not really much point in saving. Now, there's still 3 more on there. So I could separate them, but I'm going to pick the strongest looking one And I'm actually going to remove the other two. They come out okay, so I think I'll plant them in a couple of those smaller pots that I showed you earlier. And I'll plant that guy. But these guys all look pretty strong. Some of the seeds didn't take, so I'm just going to dump that soil back in with the larger collection. Now this guy's really root bound. So I'm going to try to gently take these apart. I'm going to try for the two stronger ones mostly. If I can get this little guy. See, once you disturb the soil, they start coming apart fairly easily. Popsicle sticks or craft sticks as labels. Not sure that I'd recommend it. Seen a lot of them rot away in a few weeks of being, well, let's be honest, it was more like a few months already. But a lot of them are rotting away and maybe not the best for this kind of labeling. Not sure that that was worthwhile to do. Like all the other tomato plants, I'm going to take off the couple of smaller leaves, put in some soil, make sure everything is tamped down nice and good. Careful not to transplant in any weeds. That would be bad. So I really need to do a divider in that tray. See, this one's not as tall as the pot. So I'm going to have to put some backfill in the bottom of that one. Put some soil in there to give them a bit of boost. Get them up out of the dirt a little bit. This one hadn't completely reached the limitations of his previous pot size. These two definitely hadn't. It's a good thing I got a couple of these little pots here. I got two seedlings in this one. I'll actually leave them alone to grow up together. The problem with having more than one tomato plant in the pot is that you're kind of taking some chances. It's entirely possible that one of those plants would have thrived in that pot, but by putting two in there, maybe you're holding it back. Maybe the plants are not going to thrive because now they have competition. There's only so much water and nutrients to go around everybody, so maybe now the two plants in the one pot will drain the soil faster and things maybe not work out so well. I like buying stuff from the dollar store. Doesn't always mean it's a great idea. These little plastic pots are cheap, and I like that part. I like buying cheap because this is a hobby for me. I'm not required or, reliant on the produce of my garden in order to live. It's not important. So I try not to spend a lot of money on it. But you get what you pay for. And these little plastic pots tend to be very cheap because there's not a lot of strength in them. And of course, I'll try to use them for a couple of years running if I can. I'll treat these nice and gently for the most part and try to save them. Try not to break them up. But I've already broken one. Yeah, this guy here. See the light through? Yeah, that was taking the tape off of it. For some reason it hooked and it just peeled it away. Peeled the plastic right off the side. No big deal at all. And of course you break the side walls very easily. Squeeze them a little bit and they'll break. Any kind of pulling them apart and they'll break. Really not the greatest for that. So I'm to the end of my video, or at least the end of today's activity, and I've discovered a few things. One, some of these, where'd it go? Some of these guys, really not very strong. Had a couple of rips on me, nothing too catastrophic, but a few. Where'd you go? Juice cups can work as planting containers. These are from last year. This will hold no water. That's no good. So upcycling some stuff can work, but you have to be careful with it. This is also from last year. It's a yogurt tub. I stated earlier I'm of the opinion that you need to, how to put it? I guess the best way to say it is that you need to contain the roots to a pot that's only slightly larger than what they need. Let them graduate to each new size pot before they get root bound. Because if I took this little guy in the yogurt tub and put him in here, then you're going to lose him. And it's my belief, whether it's true or not, that will stunt the growth of the plant because it has so much room to spread out that it's not actually growing anything. So if you actually put some walls around it a bit, it'll hit the walls, it'll spiral, it'll form the shape of those walls, and then it'll grow up bigger. It's because it has taken over its whole area. Speaking of area, kind of discovered by accident that I don't really have enough space in this little greenhouse to do all the things I want to do in here. Which makes me think that maybe I need to find a way to put another little shelf on this side. Let's see if this can actually give you the proper scope of how much room I'm dealing with. Now you're under a shelf. I'm talking about this area right here. I have a little spacer on the side of the doorway here that I could possibly fit a very small shelf. And that's all the wall space I'd possibly have left. I could do shelves, but plants are not going to grow very well in this greenhouse on a shelf. There's not that much room either. I've piled up a fair bit of junk in here. Mostly pots and containers that I intend to recycle to grow more stuff. But it does limit space. I have some stuff over here behind me. These are all sunflowers, mostly these big guys in the back. These all need to be transplanted out into the garden so that they get a chance to grow up big. They're already getting root bound. See the roots coming out and under? See, this is root bound. That's going to start stunting the growth of the two of those now. They'll compete for food and they need to be potted up before they start killing each other off. But I did manage to transplant all of my tomatoes. I still have maybe a dozen or so of those mini peppers I showed you in a past video. Hopefully I can get those transplanted up soon, and those could be more content. This is a green pepper. The idea you've heard of taking the little stalk end with the root on it and transplanting it into soil and growing new green pepper, or more green onion. That's true. That's where this come from. You can also see the roots coming up through the side. So there's more plants that need to be transplanted up. Once you start gardening, it seems like there's always something to do, even for a very small garden like I have. That's why I got this hobby in the first place, because I liked having these things to do. I like having things to come check on, get me out of the house a bit. So I'm going to arrange some of these plants. So I have some of the ones that need to be transplanted up out in front maybe. I have a bunch of plants that need to be watered. It's time to go. I hope you have a good day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you'll decide to give me a thumbs up or leave a comment. Tell me what you're planting. What are you growing? Do you have a greenhouse or are you planting just out on the patio? Oh, one other thing I discovered, these felt bags make okay seat cushions when you're sitting on a bucket in a greenhouse transplanting plants. My name is Steven. This is Hearts Delight Exports. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video. Now I have room for one more pot.